Welcome to my studio. My name is Sandra Orme and I am an associate artist with Unison Pastels. I'm based in England. I'm in Buxton in the Peak District, well, just outside actually. And although your camera is currently pointing at the corner of my studio where I'm working, it's the messy area, I have got a lovely big studio with great views down the valley towards Buxton with lovely light coming in. So unfortunately you can't see that, you're pointing this way, but I can guarantee you it's a really nice evening here today. Lovely blue skies, which is quite unusual for Buxton in the Peak District. We usually have quite interesting weather, which is lucky really because I'm obsessed with doing pastel skies. That's really my thing. And I love recreating atmospheric and moody and dramatic skies. So what I'm going to do is take you through the methods that I use on pastel matte paper to create layers of colour to really capture movement and light in clouds. When I was thinking about which picture to choose for this pastel challenge, I thought a sunset could be quite nice, but I thought, well, you know, it's not an extreme pastel challenge, is it? So perhaps we should go for something a bit in between, something which is accessible for everyone who's, you know, either beginning with pastels or new to doing sky and pastel, and it sort of hits a middle ground it will have some challenges, but it won't have too many things that are really too extreme in terms of colour transitions, which can make things quite complicated, because what I'm doing is a method involving blending on layers of paper. We are going to work from a resource photograph. I do a lot of photography as part of what I'm doing, just out and about. I'm often out walking and I'm out with my dogs, and it's just skies that I see, just interesting weather. This piece is over the back from where I live, just up the studio out onto the fields, and it's nice because it's got changed the colours. It's got some colour transitions to look at, but not too many. It's not major. It's sort of lemons and creams and golds and a bit of orange through into these lovely darker clouds. And there's some wispy cloud in here. There's some sharp dramatic cloud edges. So it's a nice variety. It's got a few different things going on. I thought that could be quite good and quite a nice challenge without being a bit too extreme. Less interesting is things like this sort of bold kind of dark hill where the camera's got fooled by the light and stuff. So we'll come to adapting and changing things. One of the things I want to really focus on is at this stage pointing out to you that although I do use reference photographs, it's my own photographs usually, and it's usually from places that I've been and I know or I love, my local area, or it's even further afield. And although I am using the photograph to look at in the studio, it's a colour reference sometimes, and it's like a memory aid. It's not just copying faithfully. So this is your starting point, and this is my starting point, but the outcome could look a bit different. That's always a good excuse to go with. It's artistic license, it's just my inspiration point. But that's fine, it's just meant to be a starting point, and you have to adapt it based on sometimes on what colours you happen to have in your palette. What we're not doing, I suppose what I'm saying is what we're not doing an exact copy faithfully of a photo. That's not our aim. It's to capture the essence and to get that sense of place and that movement and that light, and capture something interesting about the sky. And you may bring out something different to what I bring out, and that's great. That'll be lovely to see, and I hope that's what happens. Let's talk about the studio setup now and how I arrange my work and the sort of materials and equipment you're going to be using for this project. So as you can see, I'm working at a nice big sloping board. It's an old architect's board. It's got a nice angle, really sturdy bit of kit, quite heavy. Apparently it's a nightmare to carry around the place, but the studio is its final resting place, and my husband's now very relieved about that. What we're going to be working on is a type of paper called Clairefontaine Pastel Matte. Now, this is really my go-to paper for all my sky pieces. It's a beautiful soft surface. It feels almost like nothing's on there, but if you've used it before, you'll know that when you put a bit of pastel on, it really grips and it really doesn't move. So if I just do a quick example and just put a little bit of purple on here, and if you can see that, like that mark there, my hands for a change are fairly clean, they're usually pretty mucky. If I run my finger through gently, you'll see it barely moves at all, so it really does adhere and stick. So it lets you put lots of layers on the surface and really build the surface up. And we're going to be doing that technique with my sky piece, building plenty of layers and then gradually blending and then finally adding detail. So pastel matte is pretty vital for this process. It doesn't matter though if it's not white, and the size is up to you. I'd recommend going the same size as me if you can, but if you've got a slightly smaller bit, that should be okay. And again, the colour's not essential. We're covering it up so much you won't really see the colour. But what I would say is don't go for something that's a really strange colour underneath it, because it'd be quite hard, you know, to work against something like green when you're doing this sort of blues and yellows and stuff. I choose white because I do a lot of other artwork in charcoal, and I like working on, again, on the pastel matte surface for that. So I tend to buy the white sheets. It does come in various sizes. It comes in pads and things like that. So you can just go out there and see what you can get, but the paper is pretty essential. In terms of pastels, obviously Unison pastels are by far the best. We know that. That's why we're here, isn't it? So, and that's why I'm an associate artist with them. They are just amazing. I'm going to be working from the set I've been creating with Unison called Sky. So I'll be using predominantly the colours from here, and I'll let you know what those are so you can match them from your sets, or get hold of this set, or find approximate colours that are close enough. Because we talked earlier, didn't we, about not being too concerned about doing an exact copy. So if you have to change the tints slightly, then, you know, that's okay. Just do what you can do. Don't worry about it being exactly precise. What I would say though is that it does need to be Unison really for the final few layers, particularly because it's a layering technique and you're blending and mixing on the surface. You can kind of get away with some cheaper pastels if you have to. I don't do that because I'm a professional, I'm selling the artwork, and I want to make sure it's got the longevity and the pigments that are really good and stuff. But for the final few layers, if you're using a cheaper pastel, it won't mix properly, it won't build, and it won't go on top of the surface. It starts to lose that impact. So you will lose control and it'll be difficult to do. So you will need Unison for the final piece at the very least. So just do what you can, you know what it's like. In terms of other equipment, I use a pastel shaper tool. So this one is the size 10 flat chisel. Now, can you see that from where you are? So if I just flex it, you'll see it's quite soft. So it's a size 10 flat chisel, soft. They come in soft, medium and hard. So this is they come in soft, medium and hard. So this is a soft one. Now, if you can get hold of one of these, do so. They are great if you haven't already got one. They're really, really useful. I do like the quite big ones though, because I'm not trying to do fine mark making in terms of texture. I'm trying to do fine detail and pushing the surface around. So we're using the very flat side. So you want something that's this sort of flat shape. If you can't get hold of one, then maybe something like an eraser might do. It's not ideal. It might do it though. This is silicone, so it repels the pastel the same way your skin does. I mean, obviously your skin, you get mucky, let's face it, it's pastels. But it doesn't really take it off the surface, so nothing paper-based, no tissues or anything, that'll just take it away. You're trying to push the pastel in, and this pushes the pastel around really well. So a shaper tool, another one of my studio essentials. And the final is trying to make it not roll down in front of, clattering down the place. The final thing is framer's tape. I'm going to tape right round the bit of paper. You can see it's got a bounce on it. It's got a bit of a bow and an angle to it. So I'm taping right the way round, and we're doing a piece approximately 35 by 35 centimeters. This bit of paper is 35, oh, life of its own, off it goes. This bit of paper is 35 by 7, no, it's not. It's 35 by 50, this piece, but I deliberately cut it extra big because I want to have a strip down one side where I'll be using that for testing colours, and you'll see me do that later. So taping it right round, framer's tape, because it's the sticky stuff, you know, it's brown and sticky. However, it's not gum strip, so don't get gum strip, because that's the stuff you wet and you stick it and it never comes away, so you don't want that. So I stick right round, so I just go along and I stick all the way around, and then I stick a strip here so that I get an extra bit of paper here to check my colours on. Because you know what it's like with checking colours. We're mixing on the surface, so we need to make sure our colours are harmonious, but also if you pick a pastel and you're not quite sure, it seems okay, you know how this goes. It seems all right, you think you've got the right colour, you go to put on, I think, no, that's not the right colour, it's got a different tint to what I wanted. Having a strip down the side will help just judge that, and you can check it against the colours you've already been using to see if it's going to go. So that's kind of a useful thing, and helps with the colour balance. Okay, so that's how I work. I also have a daylight bulb, which is currently not on. The studio has great light in it, as you can probably see this morning. It's really nice light. but it's just this bit here, it's quite nice to have a bit of daylight and white light over it. I haven't put it on when I'm videoing because turns out it really flickers. Well, it doesn't flicker itself, but it appears to flick on the video, so that's why it's not on. But that's basically how I work. So the next thing will be the step 1 video. And in that step, what we're doing for the first stage is we'll be just picking out our palette, well, our starting palette. We do add gradually later, but we're starting off with our base colours and just beginning the first layers and how I apply the pastel and so on. So I look forward to seeing you for that one.